stabbing in central London has left at least one person dead and several others injured.
Police and ambulance crews were called at around 10:30 p.m. local time on Wednesday to report severe stabbings. One woman was pronounced dead a short time later at the scene. The condition of the 5 wounded is not yet known, and police say they have kept a 19-year-old man in custody after the attack. They also say terrorism is one possible motive.
City police responded late Wednesday to reports of a man attacking people with a knife in Russell Square. The suspect was arrested shortly after police arrived, and a taser was discharged by one of the officers. The mass stabbing comes just as the city unveiled new security measures. London police deployed an additional 600 armed officers Wednesday with a focus on counterterrorism. Police are still investigating the attack and say terrorism is one possible motive being explored.
Very early, a meteorite exploded over Wyoming. The blast so bright, people all over Colorado are telling us they could see it. Stan Bush live tonight. Stan, you talked with one guy who was able to catch it on video.
Certainly did, Jim. You're going to have to excuse the echo. We're inside the Chamberlain Observatory. Most people might think that in order to see a meteorite, you might need a telescope like this. But what we're finding out is that most people actually record them just on a camera this small. And what was found early Monday morning blew astronomers' minds.
Stargazers and insomniacs got quite a show around 4 in the morning on Monday.
It was a spectacular fireball.
Astronomer Steve Lee says the meteorite likely came from debris in the tail of a comet, traveling thousands of miles an hour until it hit the Earth's atmosphere.
The majority of the world's largest animals could be extinct by the year 2100. Researchers say roughly 60% of large carnivores and herbivores are currently at risk. The situation is especially alarming in sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. Overhunting and poaching are huge problems, but the growth in the human population and its increased land use are contributors as well. When people eliminate large animals, they also eliminate their positive effects on the ecosystem. A team of conservation biologists says the threat can still be reversed, but they wrote last week it'll take significant social, political, and financial commitments across the world.
They were responding to refugee flows into Uganda in particular that have doubled in the past 10 days, which brings the total in Uganda to 52,000 who have entered the country since the renewed violence started 3 weeks ago.
The displacement and health situation inside South Sudan is getting worse. There is hardly a day that goes by without several children coming into this hospital suffering from malnutrition. One hospital says it's admitting as many as 80 children per day.
We can already see the impact of the crisis in terms of the rates.
Malnutrition rates in 7 of the 10 states in South Sudan have reportedly reached the emergency threshold.
Humanitarian agencies say the number of refugees flowing into Uganda have doubled in the past 10 days. The majority of refugees arriving from South Sudan are women and children. Many have taken advantage of the opportunity to flee alongside Ugandan military convoys taking out Ugandan nationals.
We've received a large number of people in a relatively short amount of time. So that's placed, a lot of pressure on the reception facilities. UNHCR, together with the government and our humanitarian partners, have mobilized more staff, more trucks, more buses, and we're doing everything we can.
Humanitarian agencies are trying to ease overcrowding in reception centers, as well as setting up temporary shelters to increase capacity.
Vladimir Putin gave a very troubling warning to the West that went largely unnoticed by Western media outlets here in the States. He warned of our aggressive foreign policy measures, specifically that missile defense system that we placed in Romania, dangerously close to the Russian border. I want to play you a clip of what Vladimir Putin had to say about our measures. We translated it for you. Take a listen.
We know year by year what's going to happen, and they know we know. It's only you that they tell these fables, and you buy it and spread it to the citizens of your countries. Your people do not feel a sense of the impending danger. This is what worries me. How do you not understand that the world is being pulled in an irreversible direction? That is the problem. But they pretend like nothing's going on. I don't even know how to get through to you people anymore.
This is the next generation of terrorists, the children of foreign fighters in Islamic State territory in Syria and Iraq. Some as young as 7 or 8, being indoctrinated and trained in special camps. In its latest report, Europol has warned of the threat that foreign fighters' children pose. ISIL's so-called cubs of the caliphate are taught to hate the West from birth and are given homework like this, practicing decapitation on their toys. Europe's law enforcement agency is concerned that desensitized and radicalized foreign children will eventually return home.
An anti-government Syrian rescue service claims that a helicopter dropped containers of toxic gas overnight on a rebel-held town in the northwest of the country.
It says a chemical attack has been launched in the country's Idlib province. The so-called Syrian Civil Defense Group says that 33 civilians, including 18 women and 10 children, were taken to hospital.
Syria Civil Defense, which campaigns against the government, claims that 33 people, mostly women and children, were affected by the gas. It says the gas may have been chlorine.
The Japanese government has approved a defense white paper presenting changes to its defense policy. The Xinhua news agency accuses the document of smearing China's normal maritime activities to justify Japan's own militarization. The white paper covers Japan's ever-rising military spending, its enforcement of the new National Defense Program guidelines, and its efforts to promote arms sales. The 480-page paper devotes some 30 pages to China's national defense and to China's activities in the East China Sea and the South China Sea. Critics say that by playing up what's alleged as a China threat, the Japanese government is attempting to justify its own militarization and its amendment to its post-war pacifist constitution.
North Korea fired a ballistic missile Wednesday morning that landed unusually close to Japan. Japanese officials said the missile splashed down around 150 miles from the country's northwestern coast. The launch drew a strong protest from Tokyo.
我が国の安全保障に対する重大な脅威であり、許し難い暴挙であります。明白な国連安保理決議違反であり、北朝鮮に対して断固抗議をいたしました。米国、韓国と連携し、
North Korea frequently tests ballistic missiles in defiance of a United Nations ban, but they rarely pose an immediate danger to other countries. Over 30 ballistic missiles have been launched since leader Kim Jong-un took power at the end of 2011.
Pokemon are no longer contained to just smartphone screens and to the crazy phenomenon of Pokemon Go, but the craze has now come to life in New Orleans. Someone put up a statue of the iconic Pokemon, Pikachu, at the center of a broken fountain in a New Orleans park. The Pikachu statue has his arms folded and stands on a cement base that has a Pokeball on the side. Written on the cement is #Pokemonument. Pokemon fans have not wasted a second to start taking selfies with it, posting pictures on social media. New Orleans police tell ABC News they have no plans to move the statue.
At least 22 people are missing in western India after a major highway bridge collapsed. Well, witnesses say 3 vehicles, including 2 buses, plunged into the river below. Heavy monsoon rains have been blamed for the incident, and the bridge was built in the British colonial era and connects the city of Mumbai with Goa.
22 people are missing and dozens have been injured by landslides. Over 270 families were reportedly displaced. Nepal's Defense Minister Bin Rawal says the government has deployed military helicopters to carry out relief and rescue operations in flood-hit districts. The government has also allocated 750 million rupees, or around $7 million in aid.
Storms in Arizona hit hard on Tuesday, triggering flash flooding and water rescues. People reportedly had to be rescued from their cars as waters threatened to sweep them away. 2 high schools in southern Arizona were evacuated as a precaution as flooding closed several major roads and stranded motorists. Interstate 17 was closed in both directions due to flooding, and at least one vehicle got stuck in the flooded area of the freeway. Nearly 1 inch of rain fell in approximately 30 minutes in Maryville, west of Phoenix.
Happening now, a new wildfire burning up parched grassland in Northern California. The difficult fight to get it under control. Hello and welcome. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. That fast-growing wildfire is burning out of control near Lake Berryessa tonight.
Outbreak of mumps on Long Island despite the widely administered vaccine. 18 people, most of them in their 20s and 30s, now recovering from the contagious virus. CBS 2's Carolyn Gussoff live at the Nassau County Health Department in Mineola. Carolyn.
Maurice, good evening. Most Americans under the age of 45 have been vaccinated against mumps. So why the outbreak now? Well, health officials believe it could be a new strain that's not covered by the MMR. That's the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine.
Stabbing in central London has left at least one person dead and several others injured.
After the attack, they also say terrorism is one possible motive.
City police responded late Wednesday to reports of a man attacking people with a knife in Russell Square. The suspect was arrested shortly after police arrived, and a taser was discharged by one of the officers. The mass stabbing comes just as the city unveiled.
People all over Colorado are telling us they could see it. Stan Bush live tonight. Stan, you talked with one guy who was able to catch it on video.
Certainly did, Jim. You're going to have to excuse the echo. We're inside the Chamberlain Observatory. Most people might think that in order to see a meteorite...
New security measures. London police deployed an additional 600 armed officers Wednesday with a focus on counterterrorism. Police are still investigating the attack and say terrorism is one possible motive being explored.
Not very early, a meteorite exploded over Wyoming. The blast so bright, people...
Ambulance crews were caught at around 10:30 p.m. local time on Wednesday to reports of stabbings. One woman was pronounced dead a short time later at the scene. The condition of the 5 wounded is not yet known, and police say they have kept a 19-year-old man in custody.